They say miracles happen when kindness meets determination. At Oakwood Animal Sanctuary in Colorado, that truth revealed itself on a crisp autumn morning when a German shepherd named Max, once celebrated as a local hero, faced what seemed to be his final days. But sometimes the purest wisdom comes from the most unexpected sources, and a 5-year-old girl named Emily Wilson was about to prove that to everyone. The story begins at Oakwood Animal Sanctuary, nestled in the peaceful suburbs of Cherry Creek, Colorado. The sanctuary, run by Tom and Lisa Martinez, had earned a reputation as a haven for rescue dogs, a place where second chances weren't just possible, they were everyday miracles. The crisp mountain air carried the sounds of happy barks and the rustle of fallen leaves across the well-maintained grounds, where rescue dogs of all sizes and breeds found hope and healing. Max wasn't always a resident at Oakwood. For 6 years, he had served as a therapy dog, helping children overcome their fears and elderly patients find comfort in their final days. His gentle demeanor and intelligent eyes made him special, the kind of dog that could sense exactly what someone needed, whether it was a playful nudge or a quiet moment of companionship. His coat, black and tan, gleamed in the sunlight as he made his rounds at local hospitals and schools, his steady gait and proud bearing earning him the nickname the Gentle Giant among staff and visitors alike. Tom and Lisa had taken Max in after his original handler passed away, knowing his extraordinary gift for connecting with people was too precious to lose. At Oakwood, Max became more than just another rescue. He became the heart of their therapy program, showing newly arrived dogs how to trust again and helping anxious visitors find their confidence around animals. But life has a way of changing. In the blink of an eye, on that fateful October morning, as the sun painted the Colorado sky in shades of pink and gold, Max was doing what he loved most, helping a new rescue dog adjust to sanctuary life. The younger dog, startled by a sudden noise, had bolted toward the fence. Max, ever the protector, raced after him, his powerful legs carrying him across the familiar terrain. Neither Tom nor Lisa, who were watching from the observation area, could have predicted what happened next. In his hurry to prevent the younger dog from harm, Max misjudged his footing on the wet ground. The sound that followed, a sharp yelp followed by a heavy thud, seemed to echo across the entire sanctuary. Time stood still as they watched. Their beloved German shepherd tried to rise, only to find his back legs wouldn't respond. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Dr. Sarah Thompson, Oakwood's primary veterinarian who had known Max since his arrival, rushed to the sanctuary. Her examination was thorough, her experienced hands gentle as they moved over Max's spine, but her face grew more serious with each passing minute. "The trauma to his spine is severe," she explained to Tom and Lisa in the quiet of the examination room, while Max lay sedated on the table. "The swelling is putting pressure on his spinal cord, affecting his ability to move his back legs. We need to act fast." What followed was a whirlwind of specialists, second opinions, and increasingly expensive treatments. Max was moved to a special rehabilitation unit within the sanctuary, where the staff worked tirelessly to keep him comfortable. But as days turned into weeks, hope began to fade. Despite their best efforts, Max showed no signs of regaining movement. In his hind legs, the mounting medical bills forced Tom and Lisa to face an impossible decision. The cost of Max's care was straining the sanctuary's resources they needed to help dozens of other rescue dogs. Each specialist who examined Max delivered the same verdict. Without the ability to stand and walk, his quality of life would continue to deteriorate. The kindest option, they all agreed, might be to let him go. The news spread through the Cherry Creek community like wildfire. Max had touched so many lives during his years of service that people came from all over to say goodbye. Children brought him treats, Elderly patients from the hospital sent cards, and local schools organized fundraisers. But everyone knew they were just delaying the inevitable. That's when Emily Wilson entered the picture. At 5 years old, she was small for her age, with unruly brown pigtails and a gap-toothed smile that could light up a room. Her mother, Amy, taught at one of the schools where Max used to visit, and Emily had formed a special bond with the German Shepherd during those visits. She didn't understand why everyone was saying goodbye to her friend. Emily's visits to Oakwood became daily occurrences. After school, Amy would bring her daughter to spend time with Max, watching as the little girl sat beside his bed, reading him stories from her favorite picture books, just as he had once sat beside children in the hospital while they read to him. "You're going to get better," she would whisper to Max, her small hand gently stroking his fur. "You just need to remember how to stand up again." Max would turn his head toward her voice, his brown eyes bright and alert, almost as if he understood every word. One afternoon, Emily overheard 2 staff members discussing the decision to put Max down. That evening, she couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, thinking about Max, about how unfair it was that nobody could help him stand up again. The next morning, she had a question that would change everything. Emily's aunt Jessica Parker worked as a physical therapist at the local hospital. When she came to pick Emily up from Oakwood that weekend, the little girl insisted on showing her Aunt Max's condition. As they stood by his bed, Emily listened intently as her aunt explained how she helped people learn to walk again after accidents. "But why can't we do that for Max?" Emily asked suddenly, her eyes wide with the simple logic of a child. "If people need help to stand up again, maybe dogs do too." Jessica started to explain why it wouldn't work, but stopped mid-sentence. She looked at Max, then at her niece's eager face, and something clicked. Maybe it wasn't impossible after all. Maybe they had all been so focused on traditional veterinary treatments that they'd missed something obvious. That evening, Emily sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by crayons and paper, drawing picture after picture of her idea. She drew Max wearing something like the equipment her aunt used with her patients, but modified for a dog. The drawings might have looked simple to anyone else, just childish sketches with wobbly lines and bright colors, but they contained the seed of something revolutionary. The next morning started differently at Oakwood Animal Sanctuary. Emily arrived, early, clutching her folder of drawings, her Aunt Jessica following close behind. The sanctuary was just waking up, filled with the gentle sounds of dogs greeting the morning and staff members beginning their daily routines. The crisp Colorado air carried the scent of pine and fresh mountain air through the open windows of the rehabilitation wing. They found Tom and Lisa Martinez in the office, surrounded by medical bills and the dreaded appointment card for next week that everyone tried not to look at. Emily burst in, her enthusiasm cutting through the somber atmosphere like a ray of sunshine. "Show them," she said to her aunt, bouncing on her toes. "Show them how people learn to walk again." Jessica carefully laid out several physical therapy devices on the office desk. She pulled up videos on her phone, showing patients using specialized support systems during rehabilitation. As she spoke, explaining how these tools helped support patients while they rebuilt their strength, Tom and Lisa's expressions began to change. The look of polite attention transformed into something else, a tiny spark of hope. "But this would need to be completely different," Tom said, starting to sketch on the back of an envelope. "Max weighs nearly 90 pounds, and his body structure is nothing like a human's." That's when Emily spread out her drawings across the desk. She had drawn Max from different angles, wearing what looked like a modified version of the equipment from her aunt's clinic. One drawing in particular caught everyone's attention. It showed Max suspended in a harness system with adjustable supports, allowing his legs to touch the ground while supporting his weight. Emily had even drawn arrows, showing how the supports could be adjusted as he got stronger. "See?" She pointed at her drawing. "It's like a special jacket that helps him float. Max can practice standing without falling down." Dr. Sarah Thompson had arrived during the discussion, and she picked up one of Emily's drawings, studying it with the critical eye of a veteran veterinarian. Her professional skepticism battled with 20 years of experience, telling her that sometimes the most effective solutions were also the simplest. "It would need to be custom-made," she said slowly, her mind already working through the possibilities. The support would have to be distributed perfectly to prevent any additional injury. Jessica was already on her phone, calling a friend who specialized in medical equipment manufacturing. As the adults began discussing technical details and possibilities, Emily slipped away to visit Max. She found him in his special bed, alert as always, his ears pricking forward at her approach. "We're going to help you stand up," she told him, offering his favorite treat. The grown-ups are finally listening. Over the next few hours, the sanctuary office transformed into a hub of activity.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Jessica's friend contacted a local engineering firm specializing in veterinary equipment. Dr. Thompson reached out to colleagues at veterinary hospitals across the country. The Martinezes connected with companies that made specialized equipment for injured police dogs. What had started as a child's simple observation was quickly evolving into something bigger. Engineers began sketching preliminary designs, combining the basic principles of human rehabilitation equipment with the specific needs of a dog Max's size. Veterinary specialists offered input on proper weight distribution and support points. Emily stayed at the sanctuary all day, moving between Max's bed and the office where the adults were working. Whenever the discussions became too technical, she would remind them of the basics. Max just needs help to remember how to stand up. By the end of that day, something remarkable had happened at Oakwood Animal Sanctuary. The heavy cloud of sadness that had hung over the place for weeks had lifted slightly. In its place was something new, a cautious optimism, a sense that maybe, just maybe, there was hope for Max after all. The equipment company worked faster than anyone expected. Perhaps it was the urgency in Dr. Thompson's voice when she explained Max's situation, or maybe it was the photos of Emily's crayon drawings that touched their hearts. Within days, they had created the first prototype of what they called the Pause-Up support system. When the truck arrived carrying the equipment, everyone at the sanctuary gathered to watch. The system looked both simpler and more complex than anyone had imagined. There was a sturdy frame that could be adjusted to different heights, special padded supports that would go under Max's belly, and a network of strong but flexible bands that could be tightened or loosened as needed. Getting Max into the system was the next challenge. This would be tricky and potentially dangerous if not done correctly. Dr. Thompson brought in a team of specialists, including a veterinary surgeon and 2 experienced vet techs. The sanctuary staff called in extra hands to help, and everyone prepared for a long, careful process. Emily watched from a safe distance, barely breathing as they began. First, they had to position the frame around Max's bed. The staff worked, slowly, talking softly to keep him calm. Max watched everything with bright eyes, his ears moving back and forth as he took in all the activity around him. Getting the support bands under Max was the hardest part. It took 6 people working together, using special sliding boards and lots of padding to protect his sensitive skin. Every few minutes they would stop to let Max rest and adjust to the new sensations. Through it all, Emily kept talking to him from her safe spot, her voice steady and encouraging. "You're doing so well, Max," she called out. "Just a little bit. More, and then you can try standing up." After what seemed like hours, everything was finally in place. The moment of truth had arrived. Would this actually work? Would Max even try to stand? Everyone held their breath as Dr. Thompson gave the signal to start gradually taking up the slack in the support bands. Slowly, very slowly, the bands began to lift, supporting more and more of Max's weight. His muscles trembled with effort as he felt the support. For a moment, nothing seemed to be happening. Then Max did something that brought tears to everyone's eyes. He tried to push with his front legs. The support system took most of his weight, just as it was designed to do, and for the first time in weeks, Max's body began to lift from the ground. It wasn't a smooth process. His back legs weren't cooperating fully yet, and he could only manage to get partially upright before tiring, but for those few precious moments, Max was almost standing. The support system held him safely as he was lowered back down, preventing any strain or injury. "He tried!" Emily shouted, jumping up and down. "Did you see? He tried to stand up." Dr. Thompson was quickly checking Max's vital signs, but she couldn't hide her own smile. "He did more than try," she said. "This is incredible. His muscles are responding. They're weak, but they're responding. And just as importantly, he wants to stand. He's fighting to stand." That evening, as news spread through the local pet community about what had happened at Oakwood Animal Sanctuary, phones started ringing. Other veterinarians and animal rehabilitation centers wanted to know more about this innovative system. Could it help other injured dogs? Had they stumbled upon something that could change the way injured animals were rehabilitated? But for Emily, none of that mattered yet. All she cared about was that Max had tried to stand today, and tomorrow they would try again. Sometimes the biggest victories start with the smallest steps, and today Max had taken his first step toward a miracle that nobody except a 5-year-old girl had thought possible. The weeks that followed at Oakwood Animal Sanctuary were filled with the kind of magic that nobody there would ever forget. Every day brought new progress, small victories that added up to something remarkable. Emily came to the sanctuary whenever she could, usually arriving straight from school, her backpack still full of books and her eyes eager to see how Max was doing. The paws up support system had been refined based on Max's needs. The equipment company sent engineers regularly to make adjustments, taking notes on every small improvement. They added padding here, adjusted tension there, always working to make it more comfortable and effective. Max seemed to understand that this strange contraption was helping him, and he grew more confident with each session. One morning, about 2 weeks after they first tried the system, something amazing happened. Emily was there early because it was Saturday, sitting on a cushion near Max's bed, reading him a story from her favorite book when Dr. Thompson and the Martinezes arrived for Max's morning session. As they adjusted the support bands, Max seemed especially alert. His ears pricked forward and an energy about him that everyone noticed. When they began to take up the slack in the support system, Max didn't wait for them to finish. He pushed with his front legs, and for the first time his back legs moved too, not just twitching, but actually pushing against the ground. "Look!" Emily shouted, dropping her book. "He's standing! He's really standing!" And he was. With the support system taking some of his weight, Max was standing on all 4 legs. His back legs were shaking with the effort, but they were supporting him. Dr. Thompson quickly checked his responses, trying to hide her own excitement behind professional calm, but even she couldn't stop smiling. "This is extraordinary," she said, watching Max's legs carefully. The swelling in his spine must have gone down enough to allow the nerve signals to get through, and because we kept him supported and moving, his muscles didn't completely waste away. He's actually bearing weight on his back legs. Max managed to stay standing for almost 5 minutes before his legs started trembling too much. The system supported him as he was gradually lowered back down, but everyone had seen it. This wasn't just a fluke. Max was getting stronger. News of Max's progress spread quickly through the veterinary community. Other veterinarians started visiting Oakwood Animal Sanctuary to see the system in action. They brought videos of other injured dogs, asking if something similar might help them too. The equipment company started getting calls from animal hospitals across the country. Emily's Aunt Jessica, who had helped translate her niece's idea into reality, began working with the company to develop guidelines for using the system with other animals. They called it the Child's Hope System in honor of Emily, though she thought that was silly. She just wanted to help her friend Max. Each day brought new progress. Max began standing for longer periods, his back legs growing stronger. The support bands could be loosened little by little as he took more of his own weight. The staff noticed that his eyes had that old spark back, the one they thought they'd never see again. One particularly memorable afternoon, Max did something that made everyone cry happy tears. As he was standing in the support system, he took a small step forward, then another. They weren't strong steps, and the system was still supporting much of his weight, but they were steps nonetheless. Emily clapped and cheered, and Max's tail wagged at the sound, almost as if he was proud of himself too. Dr. Thompson documented everything meticulously. She took videos and measurements, tracking every small improvement. Other veterinarians began sending their own data from using the system with other dogs, and a pattern emerged. While not every animal recovered as well as Max, many showed significant improvement when given this chance to heal while supported. The Martinezes, who had once faced the heartbreaking decision to let Max go, now found themselves hosting workshops for other animal rescue centers and veterinarians. They shared their experience, taught others how to use the system, and always made sure to credit Emily, whose simple question had started it all. Watching all of this unfold, Emily remained remarkably unchanged by the attention. She didn't care about the veterinary journals that were starting to write about the system, or the animal rehabilitation conferences that wanted to feature Max's story. All she cared about was that her friend Max was getting better. One evening, as the sun was setting and the sanctuary was quiet except for the peaceful sounds of dogs settling in for the night, Emily sat beside Max's bed as usual. He was resting after a particularly good therapy session, having managed to walk several steps with less support than ever before. "You're the bravest dog in the world," she told him, offering a treat. "And soon you'll be able to walk all by yourself again. I just know it." Max gently took the treat from her hand, then rested his head near where she sat, his eyes soft and trusting. In that moment, everyone who saw them knew they were witnessing something special, the pure, unshakable bond between a child who had refused to give up hope and the dog who had proved her right. 1 year later, on a crisp autumn morning, much like the one when Max's accident had changed everything, the atmosphere at Oakwood Animal Sanctuary was very different. Instead of sadness, there was celebration in the air. Max stood in the outdoor exercise area, his coat gleaming in the morning sun. He wasn't wearing the support system anymore. He hadn't needed it for the past 2 months, though he would never return to his days as a therapy dog making hospital rounds. He had found a new purpose that nobody could have predicted. Emily, now 6 years old, sat on a bench watching as a small group gathered near the sanctuary entrance. They were families with children who had come for today's special therapy session. Oakwood Animal Sanctuary had transformed over the past year. What started as one little girl's idea to help one injured dog had grown into something much bigger. The sanctuary had become a rehabilitation center for injured animals and a therapy center for children with physical challenges. Max, once destined to be put down, was now helping children find their own strength and courage. Today's first visitor was a young boy who hadn't walked since an accident 6 months ago. His parents had heard about Max's story and the remarkable connection he seemed to have with children. The boy looked nervous at first, but when Max gently approached him, carefully matching his pace to the boy's wheelchair, something magical happened. Emily watched from nearby as the boy slowly reached out to touch Max's head. She remembered doing the same thing herself years ago when she first met Max. As the boy stroked Max's fur, his mother gasped. He had smiled for the first time since his accident. The child's hope system that had saved Max's life was now being used in animal hospitals across the country. Dr. Thompson had helped write a manual for veterinarians, and the equipment company had refined the design to make it easier to use. Every few weeks, the sanctuary would get letters and photos from other dogs who had been helped by the system, but the biggest change was in how people viewed what was possible. Emily's simple question, "Why can't we help dogs the same way we help people?" had challenged the assumptions of experts and opened new possibilities in veterinary medicine. Veterinary schools were now teaching about the system, and research was being done on other ways to adapt human medical treatments for animals. After the morning therapy session, Emily took Max for a short walk around the sanctuary grounds. This was their special time together, something they did every day when she came after school. Max walked beside her, his gait almost normal now, just a slight unevenness in his step that most people wouldn't even notice. "Remember when you couldn't walk at all?" she asked him, patting his head. Max wagged his tail in response. "And now you're helping other people and dogs learn to be brave, just like you were." As they walked, they passed the wall of the sanctuary office where her crayon drawings still hung, now framed alongside photographs of Max's recovery and letters from people whose lives had been touched by his story. The sanctuary had even started a scholarship program inspired by Emily's innovative thinking. Every year they would choose one young person who showed special insight into helping animals. Later that afternoon, as the sun began to set, Emily had one more visit to make to Max's special spot in the sanctuary. This had become their evening ritual, a quiet moment to end the day. Max lowered his head to her level, just as he had done the very first time they met. "You're still my favorite dog in the whole world," she whispered to him, "and now you're everybody else's hero too." Max's story had become more than just a tale of recovery. It was a reminder that sometimes the most powerful ideas come from the simplest questions, and that hope, when combined with innovation and determination, can create miracles. But most of all, it was a story about the special bond between a little girl and a dog, a bond that had not only saved Max's life, but had gone on to touch countless others. As the sanctuary lights dimmed and the evening settled in, Max stood contentedly by Emily's side, fully healed and with a new purpose in life. And somewhere in a little girl's bedroom, new crayon drawings were taking shape, because she had learned that sometimes the biggest changes start with just believing in what's possible. 5 years had passed since Max's miraculous recovery, and Oakwood Animal Sanctuary had grown in ways nobody could have imagined. The once modest rescue center now sprawled across 5 acres of Cherry Creek's most beautiful landscape, its modern rehabilitation facilities drawing visitors from across the country. Emily, now 10 years old, had grown too, though her heart remained as pure as ever. On this particular morning, Emily arrived at the sanctuary to find unusual activity. A television crew was setting up equipment in the main rehabilitation area, where Max, now 12 years old but still dignified, watched with mild interest. The occasion was significant. The 1,000th animal was about to begin treatment using the Child's Hope system. Dr. Sarah Thompson stood talking with a group of veterinarians who had flown in from various countries. The system had evolved considerably since those first crayon drawings. The latest version incorporated advanced sensors that could measure weight distribution and muscle response in real time, allowing for precise adjustments during therapy sessions. Max was just the beginning, Dr. Thompson explained to the gathered specialists, gesturing toward the German Shepherd, who now served as the sanctuary's ambassador. What started with Emily's simple question has revolutionized how we approach animal rehabilitation worldwide. The 1,000th patient was a young lioness named Sierra, rescued from a closed private zoo. Her case represented a new frontier for the child's hope system, adapting it for larger wildlife. Emily watched from her usual spot as the veterinary team prepared the enhanced support system, now strong enough to handle animals weighing up to 500 pounds. "Do you think it'll work for her like it did for you?" Emily whispered to Max, who sat attentively by her side. His slight grey muzzle and occasional stiffness in his back legs were the only signs of his age and past injury. He turned to her with those same intelligent eyes that had captured her heart all those years ago, offering a gentle woof of encouragement. The Martinezes had expanded their team to include wildlife specialists and rehabilitation experts. Tom and Lisa now oversaw a staff of 30, including 3 full-time veterinarians and a research team dedicated to advancing animal rehabilitation techniques. The sanctuary had become a teaching facility, hosting veterinary students from around the world who came to learn about the child's hope system and its growing applications. Emily's role had evolved too. Despite her young age, she had become an integral part of the sanctuary's innovation team. Her unique perspective, the ability to see solutions where adults saw only problems, had proven invaluable as they worked to adapt the system for different species. She kept a special notebook, much like her original crayon drawings, where she sketched new ideas and modifications. As the team prepared Sierra for her first session, Emily noticed something in the lioness's eyes, the same mix of fear and determination she had seen in Max years ago. "She's scared," Emily said to Dr. Thompson, "but she wants to get better. I can tell." The procedure to get Sierra into the support system was far more complex than it had been with Max. It took a team of 8 people working in careful coordination. The lioness had been sedated, but as she began to wake within the support structure, everyone held their breath. This was the moment of truth. Sierra's reaction would determine whether the child's hope system could truly expand beyond domestic animals to help wildlife rehabilitation centers worldwide. The lioness's eyes opened slowly, and she began to register her new position. Unlike Max's gentle acceptance, Sierra's wild nature showed through. She growled softly, confused by the strange sensation of being supported. That's when Emily did something that made everyone's heart stop. Before anyone could react, she stepped forward, not too close, but just enough to enter Sierra's field of vision. In a calm, clear voice, the same one she had used with Max years ago, she began to speak to the lioness. "It's okay to be scared," she said softly. "Max was scared too at first, but this is going to help you remember how to stand again." To everyone's amazement, Sierra's growling subsided. Her eyes, fierce yet intelligent, fixed on Emily, and something in her posture changed. The monitors showing her vital signs indicated a decrease in stress levels. Dr. Thompson and her team seized the moment to begin the first gentle adjustments. Just as they had done with Max 5 years ago, they started gradually taking up the slack in the support bands. Sierra's powerful muscles trembled, but she remained calm, her eyes still locked on Emily. Then, in a moment that would be replayed on nature documentaries worldwide, the lioness pushed with her front legs, making her first attempt to stand since her injury. "She's doing it!" Emily exclaimed, her voice barely above a whisper. "She's trying just like Max did." The success of Sierra's first session opened new doors for the sanctuary. Wildlife rehabilitation centers from Africa to Asia began reaching out, eager to learn how they could implement the system for their own injured animals. The child's hope system was about to go global. But success brought new challenges. The sanctuary needed to expand again to accommodate the increasing number of animals needing help. The research team was overwhelmed with data from different species, each requiring unique modifications to the system. Emily found herself spending more time in the sanctuary's research and development room, working alongside engineers and veterinarians to solve new problems. One evening, as the sun set over the Colorado mountains, Emily sat in her favorite spot in the sanctuary's garden, Max dozing at her feet. She was sketching modifications to the support system for a baby elephant in India when she heard familiar footsteps approaching. "Still working on new ideas?" Dr. Thompson asked, sitting beside her. She picked up one of Emily's sketches, smiling at how they still carried the same straightforward wisdom as her original crayon drawings. "The baby elephant's trunk keeps getting tangled in the front supports," Emily explained, showing her the problem. "But I think if we move them here and add this part..." Her finger traced the modification on the paper. Dr. Thompson studied the drawing, then looked at Emily with newfound respect. "You know, when you first suggested helping Max, the way we help people, you changed more than just his life. You changed how we think about animal rehabilitation entirely." Emily shrugged, scratching Max behind his ears. "I just wanted to help my friend," she said simply, "and now we can help all sorts of animals. That's what matters, right?" As if to emphasize her point, a chorus of evening sounds rose from the sanctuary. The soft whinnying of recovering horses, the purring of big cats in their rehabilitation enclosures, and the barking of dogs celebrating their daily progress. Each sound represented another life, touched by a child's simple question asked 5 years ago. The sanctuary was preparing for its next big project, establishing satellite rehabilitation centers in different countries, each equipped with the Child's Hope system and trained staff. Emily's innovative thinking had sparked a global movement in animal rehabilitation, proving that sometimes the most revolutionary ideas come from the purest intentions. As darkness fell and the sanctuary's lights began to twinkle on, Emily gathered her sketches and stood to leave. Max rose too, moving with the slight stiffness that reminded everyone of how far he'd come. Together, they made their evening rounds, visiting each animal in rehabilitation, offering encouragement and hope. Sierra's enclosure was their last stop. The lioness had made remarkable progress in just a few weeks, already bearing weight on her injured legs. When she saw Emily, she moved to the front of her enclosure, offering the same gentle greeting she had since that first day. "See?" Emily said to Max, watching the lioness's improving gait. "Sometimes all anyone needs is a chance to remember how strong they are." Max wagged his tail in agreement, and in the growing darkness, the sanctuary seemed to pulse with possibility. Somewhere in the world, another injured animal was about to get a second chance, all because a little girl had dared to ask, "Why not?" And a brave German shepherd had fought to prove her right. The journey that had begun with crayon drawings and a child's hope had grown into something that transcended borders and species, touching lives in ways nobody could have predicted. And at its heart remained the simple truth that Emily had known all along, that healing comes not just from medicine and machines, but from the unwavering belief that miracles are possible, especially when we dare to imagine them. Winter had settled over Cherry Creek, transforming Oakwood Animal Sanctuary into a wonderland of snow and ice. Inside the newly constructed International Research Wing, Emily sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by tablets displaying video, feeds from rehabilitation centers across the globe. At 11 years old now, she had grown taller, but her eyes still held that same pure compassion that had once saved Max's life. Today was different from their usual morning routine. The sanctuary was hosting its first International Animal Rehabilitation Summit, bringing together veterinarians, researchers, and wildlife experts from 6 continents. The Child's Hope system had evolved far beyond its original design, now helping everything from injured sea turtles in the Great Barrier Reef to orphaned elephants in Kenya. Max, showing his age but still devoted as ever, lay beside Emily as she studied a particularly challenging case. A young giraffe in Tanzania with a spinal injury similar to the one he had suffered years ago. The height and unique anatomy of the giraffe presented complications that even the advanced system struggled to accommodate. "What do you think, Max?" Emily asked, scratching behind his ears. "How do we help someone so tall?" Max's tail thumped against the floor, his brown eyes fixed on the tablet screen showing the injured giraffe. Though his muzzle had grown completely grey and his movements were slower now, his mind remained as sharp as ever. Dr. Thompson entered the research wing, accompanied by Dr. Amara Okafor, a leading wildlife veterinarian from Kenya. They found Emily already sketching new modifications to the support system. Her digital tablet filled with drawings that, while more sophisticated than her original crayon versions, still carried that same straightforward wisdom. "The problem isn't just the height," Emily explained, showing them her sketches. "It's how to support the neck without restricting movement. See, if we add these adjustable supports here." Her finger traced along the design, indicating a series of floating braces that could adapt to the giraffe's unique range of motion. Dr. Okafor studied the design with growing interest. In all our attempts to modify the system, we never considered a floating support structure. We were too focused on traditional stable points." She turned to Dr. Thompson with a smile. "It seems Emily hasn't lost her ability to see past our adult assumptions." The summit was scheduled to begin in an hour, and the sanctuary was buzzing with activity. Veterinarians and researchers from around the world filled the new conference center, their excited conversations creating a multilingual hum of scientific discussion. But first, there was a special ceremony to attend. In the original rehabilitation wing, now preserved as a reminder of where it all began, a small group gathered around Max's old treatment area. The Martinezes had decided it was time to officially dedicate the space as a museum of sorts, showing future generations how a child's love and a dog's courage had changed the face of animal rehabilitation forever. Emily's original crayon drawings, now carefully preserved behind glass, hung alongside photographs documenting Max's recovery. The first prototype of the Child's Hope system stood in one corner, looking almost primitive compared to its modern descendants. But it was what hung in the center of the wall that brought tears to everyone's eyes. A massive collage of photographs showing every animal that had been helped by the system over the past 6 years. Over 3,000 lives saved. Tom, Martinez announced, his voice thick with emotion, all because one little girl refused to believe in impossible. Emily, standing with her arm around Max, felt a familiar warmth in her chest. The same feeling she'd had years ago when Max took his first supported steps. "We just had to give them a chance," she said softly, "like Max showed us." The ceremony was brief but powerful. As the group moved toward the conference center for the summit's opening session, Emily noticed Max lagging slightly behind. His arthritis was bothering him more in the cold weather. Without hesitation, she slowed her pace to match his, just as he had done for so many patients over the years. Inside the conference center, the summit began with a presentation of the latest Child's Hope system innovations. Engineers demonstrated new features like artificial intelligence that could predict an animal's weight distribution needs and adjust support in real time. Veterinarians shared case studies from around the world, each success story adding to the system's growing legacy. But it was the afternoon session that truly captured everyone's attention. Emily, despite her young age, had been asked to lead a discussion on future applications of the system. She stood at the podium, Max faithfully by her side, and began sharing her vision for the next generation of animal rehabilitation. The system works because it gives animals the one thing they need most: hope, she explained, her voice clear and confident. But there are still so many we haven't reached yet. Ocean mammals, birds with broken wings, even insects recovering from injury. Every living thing deserves a chance to heal. Her presentation included designs for new variations of the system, each adapted for different species and environments. A portable version for emergency wildlife response teams, an aquatic version for marine animals, even a miniaturized version for smaller creatures. The audience watched in amazement as this young girl, who had once drawn rehabilitation equipment with crayons, now demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of biomedical engineering principles. During the break, Emily slipped away from the crowd of admirers to spend some quiet time with Max in their favorite spot, a small garden area behind the research wing. The old German shepherd moved more slowly now, but his spirit remained as strong as ever. As they sat together in the snow, Emily reflected on how far they'd come from those desperate days when everyone thought Max would have to be put down. A commotion from inside caught their attention. The live feed from Tanzania was showing something extraordinary. The injured giraffe, fitted with a prototype of Emily's new floating support design, was making its first attempt to stand. Emily and Max hurried back inside, joining the crowd gathered around the massive screen. The giraffe's legs trembled with effort, but the modified system held steady, its floating supports adjusting automatically to the animal's movements. For a breathtaking moment, the giraffe lifted itself, its long neck rising gracefully within the support structure. The room erupted in applause as the animal took its first supported steps. Dr. Okafor turned to Emily with tears in her eyes. "You've done it again," she said. "First Max, then Sierra the lioness, and now this. You keep proving that the impossible just needs a fresh perspective." As evening approached and the summit's first day drew to a close, Emily found herself back in the original rehabilitation wing. She sat on the floor beside Max's old treatment area, Max dozing peacefully beside her. The space held so many memories, moments of fear, hope, triumph, and pure joy. "We did pretty well, didn't we?" she whispered to Max, who opened one eye and wagged his tail in agreement. "And we're not done yet. There are still so many animals who need help remembering how strong they are." Outside, snow continued to fall on the expanding sanctuary grounds. Construction was already underway for new rehabilitation facilities, each designed to accommodate different species and challenges. The Child's Hope system had grown far beyond its original purpose, but its heart remained the same. The pure, simple belief that every life deserves a chance to heal. As darkness settled over Oakwood, lights twinkled on in various rehabilitation units, where animals from around the world rested and recovered. In each unit, a version of the system Emily had first imagined worked tirelessly, supporting injured bodies while spirits healed. And in every success story, every small victory lived the echo of that first miracle. A little girl's love and a brave dog's determination to prove that sometimes the impossible just needs a little hope to become possible. Spring arrived early at Oakwood Animal Sanctuary, bringing with it an unexpected challenge. The morning sun streamed through the windows of the research wing as Emily, now approaching her 12th birthday, faced one of the most difficult decisions since Max's recovery. The Child's Hope system had drawn the attention of major medical corporations, and offers to purchase the technology were piling up on the Martinez's desk. Emily sat in the conference room, Max resting his head on her lap as she listened to the latest presentation. The corporate representatives spoke about mass production, worldwide distribution, and profit margins. Their glossy slides showed impressive numbers, but something about their polished promises made Emily uneasy. Think of how many more animals we could help, one executive said, gesturing to a map showing potential deployment locations. With our resources, we could put a system in every major veterinary hospital worldwide within 2 years. Dr. Thompson sat beside Emily, her face carefully neutral as she took notes. The sanctuary had always operated on donations and grants, reinvesting every penny into research and development. The idea of commercializing the system raised complex questions about accessibility and affordability. During a break in the presentations, Emily slipped away to the sanctuary's memory wall, where photographs of successful recoveries covered nearly every inch of space. Each image told a story of hope and healing, from Max's first supported steps to the most recent triumph, a young dolphin in Australia learning to swim again after a boat injury. "What do you think, Max?" she asked, scratching behind his ears. The old German shepherd looked up at her with eyes that, despite their aging cloudiness, still held the same wisdom that had helped inspire the system's creation. Would more animals get help, or would it just become about money? The question weighed heavily on everyone at Oakwood. The sanctuary's success had always been built on personal attention, careful adaptation of the system for each animal's needs, and the unwavering principle that no injured animal would be turned away due to lack of funds. Could that spirit survive a corporate ownership? As Emily pondered these questions, an urgent call came in from the Marine Rehabilitation Center in Florida. A young manatee had been severely injured by a boat propeller, and conventional treatments weren't working. The center's director had heard about the Child's Hope System's success with the dolphin in Australia and hoped they might be able to help. Without hesitation, Emily began working on adapting the system for the manatee's unique needs. The corporate presentations and their promises of global reach faded into the background as she focused on the immediate challenge of helping one more animal in need. "See, this is what matters," she told Dr. Thompson, showing her the modifications she'd designed. "Every animal is different. You can't just make one system and expect it to work for everyone." The next few days were a blur of activity. Emily and the research team worked around the clock, coordinating with marine biologists in Florida to develop a specialized aquatic version of the support system. The manatee's injuries presented unique challenges. They needed to maintain buoyancy while supporting injured areas and allowing for natural movement. As they worked, Emily couldn't help but wonder if this kind of focused, individualized attention would be possible under corporate management. The executives had talked about standardization and efficiency, but Emily knew from experience that successful rehabilitation often required creative solutions and constant adjustments. One evening, as she reviewed the manatee's case files, Emily noticed Max watching the sunset through the research wing's windows. His own journey from paralysis to recovery had been anything but standardized. It had taken daily adjustments, constant encouragement, and a support system literally built around his specific needs. The sanctuary's approach had always been about more than just physical rehabilitation. They understood that healing involved the whole animal, body, spirit, and will to live. How could that philosophy be maintained in a corporate environment focused on quarterly reports and profit margins? A week later, the modified aquatic system was ready for testing. Emily and Dr. Thompson flew to Florida to oversee its installation. The manatee, a young female they named Hope, responded well to the initial trials. Her caretakers reported seeing the same spark of determination in her eyes that they had witnessed in so many animals at Oakwood. During their stay in Florida, Emily visited other rehabilitation centers in the area. She saw facilities struggling with limited resources, dedicated staff working overtime to provide care, and animals waiting for treatment because equipment wasn't available. The corporate offers to expand the Child's Hope system suddenly didn't seem so black and white. Back at Oakwood, Emily called a meeting with the Martinezes, Dr. Thompson, and the sanctuary's board of directors. Max lay at her feet as she shared her observations and presented an alternative proposal. Instead of selling the system to one company, she suggested, what if we created a network of independent rehabilitation centers? We could share knowledge, resources, and equipment while keeping the focus on individual care. Her proposal included a plan for training programs, shared research databases, and a foundation to help fund treatments for facilities with limited resources. It wasn't as flashy as the corporate offers, but it stayed true to the principles that had made the Child's Hope system successful. The board members listened intently as Emily explained how this approach could maintain the personal touch that made Oakwood special while still expanding their reach. She showed them data from their success stories, emphasizing how each case had required unique modifications and attention. The system works because we care about each animal as an individual, she concluded. We can't lose that, no matter how big we grow. The discussion continued late into the evening, but in the end, the decision was unanimous. The Child's Hope system would remain independent, guided by the same compassion and innovation that had saved Max's life years ago. The corporate executives were disappointed, but Emily knew they had made the right choice. The next morning, she received word that Hope the manatee had made significant progress, already showing signs of improved mobility. It was another reminder that success wasn't measured in profit margins, but in lives transformed. As spring bloomed around the sanctuary, Emily and Max took their daily walk through the rehabilitation areas. They passed dogs learning to walk again, exotic birds rebuilding flight muscles, and even a young bear recovering from injuries sustained in a forest fire. Each animal's recovery was unique, each story special in its own way. The sanctuary had grown considerably since those early days when a little girl's crayon drawings had sparked a revolution in animal rehabilitation. But its heart remained the same. A place where hope and healing went hand in hand, where every life was valued, and where impossible odds were overcome through determination and love. News of their decisions spread through the veterinary community, drawing support from rehabilitation centers worldwide. Many offered to join the network Emily had proposed, sharing their own expertise and resources. The foundation she had suggested quickly gained momentum, with donations flowing in from individuals touched by the stories of animals helped by the system. As the sun set on another busy day at Oakwood, Emily sat in her favorite spot in the garden, Max dozing beside her. She could hear the sounds of evening rehabilitation sessions, the gentle whir of support systems, encouraging voices of caretakers, and the determined efforts of animals working to recover. "We made the right choice," she whispered to Max, who wagged his tail in sleepy agreement. The old German shepherd might be moving slower these days, but his legacy lived on in every animal that found hope and healing through the system his recovery had inspired. The autumn winds swept through Cherry Creek with unusual force, rattling the windows of Oakwood's research wing. Emily, now 13, sat at her desk reviewing data from rehabilitation centers across the network when she noticed Max struggling to rise from his bed beside her. The sight made her heart ache. Her beloved friend, now 14 years old, was showing his age more with each passing day. Dr. Thompson had been monitoring Max's condition closely, the arthritis in his back, legs, a lasting reminder of his old injury, had been getting worse despite their best efforts. Emily had spent countless hours modifying the latest version of the Child's Hope system to help senior animals, inspired by Max's needs, but she knew they were fighting an inevitable battle against time. "Just a little slower these days, Aunt." "Wee boy!" Emily helped Max to his feet, supporting him as he found his balance. His tail still wagged with the same enthusiasm, his eyes still bright with intelligence and love, but his body was beginning to fail him. This reality had sparked a new direction in Emily's research, focusing on quality of life for aging animals who had recovered from severe injuries. The sanctuary had grown into a global network of rehabilitation centers, but Oakwood remained its heart. Today, they were preparing for a special arrival, the first group of students from the newly established Veterinary Innovation Program. Young aspiring veterinarians from around the world had been selected to learn about the Child's Hope system directly from its creators. As Emily guided Max through their morning routine, they passed the training center where the students would soon gather. The walls were lined with the history of the system's development, from those first crayon drawings to the latest technical specifications. But it was the success stories that drew everyone's attention. Thousands of photographs showing animals who had regained their ability to move, to live, to thrive. The first students arrived just as the morning fog was lifting. Emily watched them file into the orientation room, their faces full of enthusiasm and determination. Max sat beside her, his presence still commanding respect despite his grey muzzle. And slower gait. When Emily stepped forward to address the group, she felt the familiar warmth of his body against her leg, giving her strength as he had done so many times before. "Welcome to Oakwood," she began, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who had grown up turning impossible dreams into reality. "Before we talk about the technology, I want you to meet someone very special. This is Max, the dog who started it all." As if on cue, Max stepped forward, his movement careful but dignified. The students leaned forward, many of them familiar with his story from their textbooks, but seeing him in person, understanding that this was the dog whose recovery had revolutionized animal rehabilitation, brought tears to many eyes. Emily continued, explaining how Max's journey had taught them their most important lesson, that medical innovation must be guided by compassion. As she spoke, she noticed Max's attention shift toward the door. A moment later, Dr. Thompson entered with urgent news. A massive wildlife rescue operation was underway in Southeast Asia, where flooding had left hundreds of animals injured and stranded. The sanctuary's emergency response protocols immediately activated. Within hours, the research wing transformed into a command center, coordinating with rehabilitation centers across the network. The students found themselves thrust into real-world application of everything they were there to learn. Emily worked tirelessly with the team, developing rapid deployment versions of the support system that could be airlifted to remote locations. Max stayed by her side, his presence a constant reminder of why their work mattered. Though he could no longer actively assist as he once had, his spirit inspired everyone around him. As night fell, Emily took a brief break, walking with Max in their favorite garden. His steps were shakier than usual. The day's excitement and changing weather had taken their toll. She sat with him on a bench, watching the stars emerge above the sanctuary. "I wish you could stay with me forever," she whispered, burying her face in his fur. Max turned to look at her, his eyes full of understanding. In that moment, Emily realized that Max's greatest gift hadn't just been inspiring the system that had helped so many animals. It was teaching her that love transcends physical limitations. The next few days brought both challenges and triumphs. Reports from Southeast Asia showed the emergency response teams successfully implementing the portable support systems. Videos streamed in of elephants being helped to safety, tigers receiving critical care, and countless smaller animals finding hope in the midst of disaster. The students proved invaluable, bringing fresh perspectives to each challenge. One young veterinarian suggested modifications to the system that would make it more efficient in muddy conditions. Another developed a new protocol for treating multiple animals simultaneously. Emily watched with pride as the next generation of animal care specialists embraced the philosophy that had started with a little girl's determination to help one injured dog. But amid the activity, Emily couldn't ignore Max's declining health. He spent more time resting, needed more help getting around, and showed less interest in his favorite activities. Dr. Thompson had been honest with her. They were entering Max's final chapter. The thought was almost unbearable, but Emily knew she had to be as brave as Max had always been. One evening, as the sanctuary quieted after another busy day, Emily sat in the original rehabilitation wing where Max had taken his first supported steps all those years ago. Max lay beside her, his breathing shallow but peaceful. The room had been preserved as a museum, but to Emily and Max, it was sacred ground, the place where impossible had become possible. "You know what, Max?" Emily said softly, gently stroking his head. "You didn't just help me save you. You helped me learn how to save others. And now you're teaching me something else, how to be strong even when it hurts." Max lifted his head slightly, pressing it against her hand. His eyes, though clouded with age, still held that same spirit that had captured her heart when she was just a little girl with crayon drawings and an impossible dream. The sanctuary's newest initiative, inspired by Max's journey into his senior years, was already helping countless aging animals maintain their quality of life. Emily had named it Max's Legacy Program, focusing on supporting animals through their golden years with the same dignity and care that had characterized their rehabilitation. As Max drifted off to sleep, Emily remained beside him, watching the moonlight filter through the windows. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new animals to help, new innovations to develop. But tonight was for remembering, for honoring the journey that had brought them here, and for treasuring every moment with the friend who had changed, not just her life, but the lives of countless animals around the world. Outside, the autumn wind continued to blow, carrying with it the sounds of the sanctuary, the gentle whir of support systems, the soft conversations of caretakers working the night shift, and the peaceful breathing of animals healing under their care. Each sound was part of Max's legacy, a symphony of hope that had started with a single act of love between a little girl and her dog. Emily knew that whatever the future held, the spirit of what they had created would live on in the technology that bore his inspiration, in the thousands of animals given a second chance, and in the hearts of everyone who learned that sometimes the greatest miracles start with simply refusing to give up on someone you love. Winter descended on Cherry Creek with unusual gentleness, blanketing Oakwood Animal Sanctuary in soft snow. In the sanctuary's special care unit, Emily spent every moment she could beside Max, whose strength was fading more rapidly now. The old German Shepherd had entered his 15th year, far exceeding the expectations anyone had held after his injury so long ago. Dr. Thompson had set up a comfortable space for Max near the research wing, allowing him to remain close to the work that his story had inspired while receiving the care he needed. Emily had taken to sleeping at the sanctuary more nights than not, unwilling to leave her beloved friend's side. Her parents understood. They had witnessed the extraordinary bond between their daughter and Max from the beginning. On this particular morning, as dawn painted the snow-covered grounds in shades of pink and gold, Emily noticed something different in Max's eyes. Despite his weakening body, there was a fierce clarity in his gaze, a determination she recognized from their earliest days together. He wanted to visit the rehabilitation areas one last time. "Are you sure, boy?" Emily asked softly, her heart aching at how much effort it took him to rise. Max's tail wagged slowly but decisively. Dr. Thompson, who had just arrived for her morning rounds, saw what was happening and quickly brought a modified support harness, one of the newest designs created specifically for senior animals. Together, they helped Max into the harness, the technology he had inspired now supporting him in his final days. Emily walked slowly beside him as they made their way through the sanctuary. At each rehabilitation unit, they paused, watching the animals working to recover, each one a testament to the legacy Max would leave behind. In the aquatic center, a young seal was learning to swim again after a fishing net injury. The marine version of the child's hope system supported her as she built up her strength. When she saw Max, she raised her head from the water and barked a greeting, as if recognizing a kindred spirit. The exotic animal wing housed a jaguar cub, rescued from a poaching incident that had left her back legs severely damaged. The latest version of the support system, adapted for big cats, allowed her to practice natural stalking movements while her injuries healed. She watched Max with curious eyes, perhaps sensing the connection between her recovery and this aging dog who moved so carefully through her space. As they approached the original rehabilitation wing, where Max had taken his first supported steps all those years ago, Emily felt him lean more heavily against her. The morning's journey had taxed his remaining strength, but his eyes remained bright and alert. They sat together in the spot where it had all begun, where a little girl's love and a dog's courage had sparked a revolution in animal rehabilitation. Dr. Thompson found them there an hour later, Max's head resting peacefully in Emily's lap. The veterinarian knelt beside them, her experienced hands gentle as she checked Max's vital signs. Her expression told Emily everything she needed to know. They were nearing the end of their journey together. That afternoon, something extraordinary happened at Oakwood. As word spread through the sanctuary that Max was failing, people began to gather. Staff members who had witnessed his first steps in the support system, volunteers who had helped with his therapy, and even some of the families whose own animals had been helped by the child's hope system came to pay their respects. The Martinezes cleared the original rehabilitation wing, creating a peaceful space where Max could rest comfortably, surrounded by the love of his extended sanctuary family. Emily sat beside him, telling him stories about all the lives he had helped change, all the miracles his courage had inspired. As evening approached, Dr. Thompson received an urgent call. A young elephant in Kenya, fitted with one of their support systems, had just taken its first steps after a severe injury. She brought her tablet to show Max and Emily the video feed. The elephant's determined efforts, its triumph over seemingly impossible odds, mirrored Max's own journey. "See that, Max?" Emily whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "That's because of you. All of this is because you showed us what was possible." Max lifted his head slightly, watching the screen with interest. His tail thumped weakly against the floor, one last celebration of another life transformed by his legacy. Then, with a soft sigh, he rested his head back in Emily's lap, his eyes filled with a peace that brought tears to everyone present. Throughout the night, Emily remained by Max's side, remembering the little girl she had been, the crayon drawings that had seemed so impossible then, and the brave dog who had proved that miracles were possible if you just believed hard enough. She told him about her plans to expand the sanctuary's work, about the new innovations being developed, about all the animals yet to be helped. Max slipped away peacefully just before dawn, surrounded by love and the quiet dignity that had characterized his entire life. As the news spread through the sanctuary, a profound hush fell over the grounds. In every rehabilitation unit, the daily routines continued, but with a solemn reverence. Each recovered step, each small victory, a tribute to the dog who had started it all. Dr. Thompson found Emily still sitting with Max as the sun rose, its light creating a halo effect through the windows of the rehabilitation wing. "He changed everything," the veterinarian said softly, placing a gentle hand on Emily's shoulder. "Not just for other animals, but for all of us. He showed us that nothing is impossible if you approach it with enough love." In the days that followed, tributes poured in from rehabilitation centers around the world. Stories of animals whose lives had been saved by the system Max had inspired, photographs of successful recoveries, messages of gratitude from veterinarians. and caregivers who had learned to believe in miracles because of one brave German shepherd's determination to walk again. Emily threw herself into her work with renewed purpose, channeling her grief into innovations that would help even more animals. She expanded the Max's Legacy program, ensuring that aging animals would receive the same devoted care that had marked Max's final years. The sanctuary's research team developed new modifications to the support system, each advancement guided by the principles they had learned from Max. That healing required not just physical support, but unwavering love and belief in what's possible. 1 month after Max's passing, Emily stood in the sanctuary's memorial garden, where a special tribute had been created. A life-sized bronze statue of Max stood proudly, capturing him in his prime, strong, dignified, and full of the gentle wisdom that had touched so many lives. At its base, a plaque told his story, not just of his remarkable recovery, but of how a child's love and a dog's courage had transformed the field of animal rehabilitation forever. Beside the statue, a wall of photographs continued to grow, showing animals from around the world who had found hope and healing through Max's legacy. Each image told a story of triumph over adversity, of strength found through support, of impossible odds overcome through determination and love. As Emily traced her fingers over Max's name on the plaque, she felt a familiar warmth in her heart. Though he was no longer physically present, his spirit lived on in every animal that found hope through the system he had inspired, in every innovation developed to help those in need, and in the unwavering belief that with enough love and determination, any challenge could be overcome. The sun broke through the clouds, illuminating the memorial garden and casting long shadows across the sanctuary grounds. In the distance, the sounds of daily rehabilitation sessions continued. The gentle whir of support systems, the encouraging voices of caregivers, and the determined efforts of animals working to recover. Each sound was a testament to Max's legacy, a reminder that sometimes the greatest miracles start with a simple act of love. Emily turned toward the rehabilitation wings, where new animals waited to begin their journeys of recovery. She carried Max's spirit with her, knowing that his story would continue to inspire hope and transformation for generations to come. In every crayon drawing turned into reality, in every impossible obstacle overcome, in every life transformed. Through the power of unconditional love, Max's miracle lived on. Spring burst forth at Oakwood Animal Sanctuary with unprecedented vigor, as if nature itself was celebrating renewal. 3 months had passed since Max's departure, and Emily, though still carrying the weight of loss in her heart, had found new purpose in her work. The sanctuary hummed with activity as she prepared to unveil their most ambitious project yet, a revolutionary mobile rehabilitation unit that could bring the child's hope system to remote areas around the world. On this particular morning, Emily stood in the recently completed Innovation Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing real-time data from rehabilitation centers across the globe. At 13, she had grown taller, her childhood features maturing, but her eyes still held that same determination that had once saved a German shepherd everyone else had given up on. The mobile unit, parked outside the center, represented everything they had learned over the years. It was a marvel of engineering, a fully equipped rehabilitation facility that could be transported by air or ground to anywhere in the world. Inside, it carried the latest version of the support system, now enhanced with artificial intelligence that could adapt to any animal's specific needs. Dr. Thompson entered the Innovation Center, bringing news that would test everything Emily had learned about hope and perseverance. A massive earthquake had struck an isolated region in the Himalayas, leaving countless animals injured and stranded. Local wildlife sanctuaries were overwhelmed, and traditional rescue operations were struggling with the difficult terrain. "This is exactly what we built the mobile unit for," Emily said, already pulling up topographical maps on the main display. "We can reach areas that traditional vehicles can't access." She paused at Max's memorial photo on the wall, drawing strength from his memory. "He always taught us to find a way, no matter how impossible it seemed." Within hours, the sanctuary transformed into a command center. The Martinezes coordinated with international rescue organizations, while Emily and the research team modified the support system for high-altitude operations. The mobile unit would face its first real test in some of the most challenging conditions imaginable. As preparations continued, Emily received an unexpected visitor. A young girl, no more than 5 years old, stood in the doorway of the Innovation Center, clutching a folder of drawings. The sight stopped Emily in her tracks. It was like looking at a reflection of her younger self. The girl's name was Luna, and she had come with her parents, who were part of the rescue team heading to the Himalayas. While the adults discussed logistics, Luna shyly showed Emily her drawings. They were sketches of a modified support system designed to help animals trapped in narrow mountain crevices. "See?" Luna pointed to her crayon marks. "It can fold really small to fit through tight spaces, then get bigger to help them out." The simplicity and brilliance of her idea struck Emily like a thunderbolt. Here was the same pure, uncomplicated wisdom that had led to the system's creation in the first place. Emily immediately called the engineering team. Within hours, they had incorporated Luna's concept into the mobile unit's equipment. The girls' fresh perspective had solved a challenge they hadn't even fully recognized yet: how to reach animals in the most confined spaces. As the mobile unit prepared for departure, Emily found herself drawn to Max's memorial garden. The bronze statue stood proud against the morning sky, a constant reminder of where everything had started. She touched the plaque briefly, a ritual she had developed since his passing. "We're taking your miracle even further, Max," she whispered. "And you're still teaching us through Luna that sometimes the simplest ideas are the most powerful." The rescue mission launched at dawn the next day. Emily, despite her young age, was an essential part of the team. Her intimate knowledge of the support system and her ability to think creatively in challenging situations had earned her the respect of veteran rescue workers and veterinarians alike. The mobile unit, transported by a specialized aircraft, landed in the disaster zone as the sun broke over the Himalayan peaks. The sight that greeted them was both heartbreaking and daunting. Landslides had created a maze of ravines and crevices where injured animals lay trapped. Traditional rescue equipment couldn't reach many of them. That's where Luna's innovation proved invaluable. The folding support system could be threaded through narrow spaces, then expanded to stabilize and extract injured animals. Emily worked tirelessly alongside the rescue team, her heart soaring with each successful rescue. A young snow leopard, found with severe injuries in a narrow crevice, became the first beneficiary of Luna's design. The modified system allowed rescuers to reach and stabilize the magnificent creature without causing additional trauma. As they carefully extracted it from its rocky prison, Emily caught a glimpse of something familiar in its eyes. The same fighting spirit she had seen in Max all those years ago. The mission stretched into weeks as the team worked to reach every injured animal they could find. The mobile unit proved its worth many times over, serving as both a treatment center and a coordination hub for rescue efforts. Emily's days blurred together in an endless cycle of problem-solving, adaptation, and determination. One evening, as she monitored the recovery of their latest rescues, Emily received a video call from Luna back at Oakwood. The young girl's face lit up the screen as she shared more ideas she had drawn up. Her enthusiasm and creativity reminded Emily so much of herself at that age, it brought tears to her eyes. "You know what, Luna? Emily said, holding up one of the girl's drawings to the camera. "You're doing exactly what I did when I was your age. You're seeing solutions that adults might miss because you're not worried about what's impossible." The conversation sparked something in Emily. She realized that Max's legacy wasn't just about the technology they had developed or the animals they had saved. It was about preserving that pure, childlike ability to see past limitations and believe in miracles. As the rescue mission entered its final phase, Emily began documenting everything they had learned. The mobile unit had exceeded all expectations, but more importantly, Luna's contributions had shown that the spirit of innovation that had started with a little girl's crayon drawings was very much alive. Back at Oakwood, Emily initiated a new program called Young Innovators for Animal Welfare, inspired by Luna's involvement in the Himalayan rescue. The program would encourage children to share their ideas for helping animals, maintaining that precious perspective that had led to the Child's Hope System's creation. The sanctuary's memorial garden had grown during Emily's absence. New photos adorned the walls surrounding Max's statue, including images from the Himalayan rescue. Each picture told a story of hope, determination, and the endless possibilities that open up when you refuse to accept impossible as an answer. Spring was giving way to summer as Emily stood in the Innovation Center, watching Luna work with the engineering team on her latest idea. The young girl's presence had brought new energy to the sanctuary, a reminder that Max's miracle hadn't ended with his passing. It lived on in every child who dared to dream of helping animals in need. Outside, the mobile unit stood ready for its next mission, a testament to how far they had come from those first crayon drawings. But inside the Innovation Center, surrounded by children sharing their ideas and dreams, Emily knew they were witnessing something even more powerful. The continuation of a legacy that had started with a little girl's love for her dog. As the sun set over Oakwood, casting long shadows across the memorial garden, Emily smiled at the bronze statue of Max. His story had inspired a new generation of dreamers and innovators, proving that sometimes the greatest miracles come from the purest hearts and the simplest beliefs, that with enough love and determination, nothing is truly impossible. Autumn painted Oakwood Animal Sanctuary in brilliant shades of gold and crimson as Emily prepared for a moment that would have made Max proud. 5 years had passed since that fateful day when a paralyzed German shepherd and a determined 5-year-old girl had changed the face of animal rehabilitation forever. Now, at 13, Emily stood before a gathering of veterinarians, scientists, and young dreamers from around the world. The occasion was the official opening of the Max Memorial Innovation Center, a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to nurturing the kind of pure creativity that had first inspired the Child's Hope System. The center featured something special, a dedicated innovation lab designed specifically for children to develop their ideas for helping animals in need. Luna, now 6 years old, stood beside Emily as they cut the ribbon. The young girl whose crayon drawings had revolutionized the mobile rescue unit during the Himalayan mission had become a symbol of how Max's legacy continued to inspire new generations. The space was filled with drawing tables, 3D printers, and child-sized engineering tools, all designed to encourage the same kind of unconditional love and determination that had started their journey. Sometimes the greatest miracles come from the simplest dreams, Emily addressed the crowd, her voice strong with conviction. Max taught us that nothing is impossible when you lead with love. Every animal deserves a chance, and sometimes it takes a child's pure heart to see the way forward. The walls of the Innovation Lab told the story of their journey. Emily's original crayon drawings of the support system, photographs of Max's recovery, and images of the thousands of animals whose lives had been transformed by what began as a little girl's refusal to give up on her friend. Luna's designs hung there too, alongside drawings from children around the world who had contributed their own ideas to the ever-evolving system. As the ceremony continued, Emily's attention was drawn to the window overlooking the sanctuary grounds. The rehabilitation areas were alive with activity. Dogs learning to walk again, exotic birds rebuilding their strength, and even a young elephant testing its legs in the latest version of the support system. Each animal's journey was a testament to Max's legacy. The Child's Hope system had grown far beyond anyone's imagining. The mobile rescue units, inspired by Luna's innovations, were now deployed worldwide, reaching animals in the most remote and challenging environments. Veterinary schools taught the principles that had started with a little girl's crayon drawings, and research centers continued to develop new applications for the technology. But it was the sound of children's voices in the innovation lab that filled Emily's heart with the most hope. Young minds, unburdened by conventional limitations, worked on new ideas, their drawings and designs fueled by the same pure love for animals that had driven her all those years ago. Each child carried forward the spirit of what Max had taught them, that sometimes the purest wisdom comes from those who haven't yet learned what's supposed to be impossible. Later that evening, as the crowds departed and the sanctuary settled into its nightly routine, Emily made her way to the memorial garden. Max's bronze statue stood proud against the autumn sky, his gentle eyes seeming to watch over the sanctuary he had helped create. The wall of photographs surrounding the statue had grown enormous, each image telling a story of hope, healing, and the transformative power of love. Emily sat on the bench beside the statue, her hand resting on its base as she had done so many times before. The cool metal under her fingers connected her to every memory, the desperate days after Max's accident, the triumph of his first supported steps, the countless lives they had helped save together, and the peaceful morning when he had slipped away knowing his work was complete. "You see what you started, Max?" she whispered, looking out over the sanctuary that had grown from their shared miracle. "You didn't just teach me how to help you. You taught me how to help others believe in the impossible." A young deer in the rehabilitation area took its first supported steps, its determination echoing Max's own journey. In the innovation lab, lights still burned as Luna and other young innovators worked on their latest ideas. The autumn wind carried the sounds of healing and hope across the sanctuary grounds. The gentle whir of support systems, the encouraging voices of caretakers, and the determined efforts of animals working to recover. Emily stood, touching the plaque that told Max's story one last time. His legacy lived on, not just in the technology they had developed or the animals they had saved, but in every child who dared to dream of making a difference, in every veterinarian who learned to look past conventional limitations, and in every life transformed by the power of unconditional love. As the sun set over Oakwood, casting long shadows across the memorial garden, the sanctuary glowed with the light of countless miracles in progress. In the distance, another group of young innovators arrived, their arms full of drawings and their hearts full of dreams, ready to prove once again that sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest believers. Max's story had become more than just a tale of recovery. It was a testament to the extraordinary things that can happen when pure love meets unwavering determination. His miracle lived on, in every crayon drawing turned into reality, in every impossible obstacle overcome, and in every life touched by the simple truth he had taught them all, that with enough love, nothing is truly impossible. The autumn wind rustled through the leaves, carrying with it the promise of more miracles to come. For in every child's drawing, in every animal's recovery, and in every heart touched by their story, lived the enduring spirit of a brave German shepherd and the little girl who had loved him enough to change the world. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.